Are all batteries the same? That's like asking if all soccer players are the same. Take Messi, the most decorated player ever. Is there any other player who has achieved that? No, just him. Now take Duracell. Is there any other battery with power boost ingredients inside? No, just Duracell. Remember, goats only trust goats because they're built different. And Messi only trusts Duracell.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Mornings have a rhythm. You can hear it, feel it. And at Quaker, we fuel it. With 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber in every bowl, helping you turn that rhythm into your soundtrack for a great day. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
What do you think was that transition that took Faith Hill from being your secretary to becoming a household name?
Well, when I hired her as my secretary, I said, now you're not here because you want to be a singer, right? She said, no. My husband does this. And so I came into my office one day and she's crying. And I said, what's going on, Faith? And she said, well, I really want to sing. And I said, well, then you're fired.
Started as a kid with a team to believe in. Every win and loss left my heart still beating. Year after year through the rain and the sun, learning that faith is what makes us strong.
The kick is up, and the kick is good afternoon, and welcome back to the Superfan Diaries. I'm your host, J.R. Green, recording from our studios on Broadway in downtown Nashville, Vegas, bringing you the biggest sports, the biggest moments, and the biggest fans, celebrating passionate sports figures and their unique stories. Yes, legends. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share your own game day traditions or stories online.
Today, we have a legend in the house. I'm J.R. Green, and this is a story about a kid from Fort Worth, Texas, who could have gone a lot of different directions. He played 4 sports in high school, good enough to earn a college scholarship. He hunts, he fishes, he hosted his own outdoor sports television show, and somewhere between the fishing lines and the spotlight, he also managed to record five #1 country hits, play Jean Valjean from Les Mis on Broadway, sing at the White House, and write a song that a lot of our dads still cry to. He's an athlete, an outdoorsman, an advocate for hunting and fishing culture in this country, and one of the most versatile entertainers Nashville has ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, from Fort Worth, Texas, now living in Colorado, Gary Morris. Gary, welcome to the show.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Doing awesome. It's just so excited to get to have you on here today.
I'm excited about it. I've been thinking about this for several days, trying to get everything right, clear my head, be ready to go.
You're ready to go. You just have to show up. That's the benefit of what you've accomplished in life, and just getting ready to show up here because we're just honored to have you on here. And I mean, before we even get started, I had to, have the intern and the team get to listen to some of your amazing gift of music, because I grew up when I was in high school. I was that guy. I went out and bought your CD, Les Mis, the symphony piece, and I listened to it over and over again. And your vocals of Jean Valjean is just, it's beyond powerful. And it was just so much fun. And watching you on YouTube and now seeing you in person is, it just gives me goosebumps. All right, before we go into anything more, because we're going to talk a lot about that today, Wind Beneath My Wings. I know it's a huge song. You're one of the first people to ever sing it. It was one of my dad's, and obviously with Father's Day just passing, it was literally one of his favorite songs. And there are so many people right now who feel the exact same way when they hear that song. How does it feel to carry a song like that for over 40 years?
Lucky. A song like that, my personal belief was what you have to do as a singer is get out of the way of it. Make a record that just lets the song speak for itself. So when we went in and cut it, they're just 2 acoustic guitar players, Reggie on electric guitar, and barely any drums at all. And then we brought in a couple of background singers to sing harmony with me, and that was the record. And the really interesting thing about that record, from my standpoint, we cut it. It was in the summer, and it was during fanfare time. And I was out playing on the Warner Brothers softball team, and this limo comes screeching up and running back or turning around, and the guy gets out and hollers at me, and I come over, and he said, "Hey, man, we got this record of yours out in Los Angeles, and it wasn't all there." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, all there is just a couple of acoustic guitars and I mean, we think something was wrong in sending out what they call the parts." And I went, no, that's the record. And what he said, he was head of the publicity for Warner Brothers LA. He said, "Are you trying to kill your career?" Because I'd had these up-tempo ditties up to then.
Yeah.
I said, "No, that's it." And the really interesting part, it was a struggle. I had done IBK over in Knoxville. I'd done their
Oh
big...
my gosh, yes, I remember that as a kid, WIBK.
Yeah. I did the big, with George Strait, we did their big arena show. So I'd met Alan Dick over there, their music director. And when they released Wind Beneath My Wings, I called Alan. I said, "Alan, are you going to play this?" And he went, "Well, Gary, I'm really sorry, but it's 4 minutes of dead air." And I said, "Well, okay, I did your damn show for you. Would you play it like 2:00 in the mornings after the Saturday night crew that's been out drinking and dancing, whatever, on their way home or whatever, just spin it one time and see what happens?" He said, "Man, I'll do that."
There you go.
So I called him Monday morning. I said, "Alan, how'd it go?" He said, "Well, I guess I missed that one." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we played it like 2:24 in the morning. We had to play it 6 times again before the 6 a.m. shift."
Of course, because you got
And it
people coming
happened
home
like
after
that
drinking. Yeah.
It happened like that across the country. It was a real struggle, but I don't take any credit for it. It's just a magnificent song. Larry Henley and Jeff Sobar wrote it, and all I wanted to do was get out of the way of it and deliver the message, and it worked.
No, you did just that. Well, we're going to jump into that a little bit later on the show, but right now we got to go back to the athlete, the kid from Fort Worth. Garrett, let's start the show with this. For sports, I went to TCU, so I know Richland High School. And I know you're an athlete, college scholarship. What sports were you playing, and which one were you the best at?
I played football, basketball, baseball, and track. And I was the only unanimous all-star in summer league baseball. I played catcher. I led the league in batting. I led the league in stolen bases, and I led the league in putouts. So I probably would say that baseball would have been my ticket to go somewhere, maybe to the big leagues. But I loved all of them. I made all conference, and I made honorable mention and won all conference and all the rest of the sports. And it's just funny. I was just, I guess, built that way because I didn't train. My best friend was the discus thrower, and I was playing baseball, and I went down to retrieve discus for him so he could do his spin and work. And I was throwing it over his head, just winging it. And the coach said, "You're going to have to throw discus." And I said, "I don't know how to spin. I don't know any of that." He said, "Well, you're throwing it further than our guy, and you're just standing there." So it was like that. I went out to Cisco, played 3 sports out there, and then was going to go to Tech and play football my last 2 years.
So you had a scholarship was it baseball? Was your first scholarship was for baseball?
It was actually baseball, but I started the football team, and we were number 2 in the nation, got the only bowl game for junior colleges. So, I don't know. I guess I was just built to do that. I played football, and I played basketball and baseball in college. I didn't run track.
You nailed
And
them
then
all.
I ended up singing for a living.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts. All right, so it was not just about you loving sports. It was the fact that you were good enough to get a scholarship in baseball. Probably could have gotten scholarships in others. What did athletics teach you growing up that carried with you into everything else, including music that you do today?
The athletics of my youth made me a stronger physical person, and also the athletics kept me directed. I mean, if you're playing football or you're playing basketball or baseball, you have to have your head in the game. You have to have your focus. And so, although a lot of people would say that my focus was scattered because I did so many things, but for some reason I was able to narrow my focus in. And it's just like when I started doing music, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. I channeled it. It worked. I found out what worked best for me. And I wasn't really tied to any tradition. I learned to sing in a Baptist church.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be like a music director for some big Baptist church when I grew up, but
Even while you were an athlete, you felt that? Even though you were this super athlete, you actually thought you would end up being?
But I was a Southern Baptist. I was at church every Sunday. I wasn't out at the lake with all the kids. And, my sister played the piano in church. And then I did a youth-led revival, did the music for it, and then went to Colorado and life changed. I started playing music for a living. And, let me just tell you how, liquor by the drink wasn't happening in 1969 in Texas. If you went to a bar, you brought your own bottle. So anyway, I get this job singing in this nightclub in Denver, and I've never told this story to anybody. And I'm a Southern Baptist. They serve alcohol. So I call my parents up and say, look, I'm going to do this. I want y'all to come see where I'm working because it's an outstanding place. So they came up and we're sitting down and going to have dinner in the nightclub before show again. And the waitress comes over and says, can I get you guys a drink? And my dad says, yeah, iced tea. Mom says, yeah, iced tea. I said, yeah, iced tea. She thanks us and goes back. I come back 30 years later or 25 years later and doing a big event in Denver, and I'm signing autographs. I look across the room and I see the waitress that waited on.
Stop it. 30 years later?
30 years later. She hadn't changed at all. She had blonde hair and wore her hair in a bun. And she came over and I said, oh, didn't say iced tea. We said jumbo shrimp cocktail. That's what all three of us ordered. So Ruth came over and I says, you're not going to remember this. She says, jumbo shrimp cocktail.
Stop it.
30 years later.
Stop it.
I had no idea, you want to drink meant do you, want to drink. But so that's how I started.
Yeah.
It's like I was a green kid that could sing and play guitar.
Well, I mean, and by the way, sometimes they do say that, super genius and talent, it can be correlated. Obviously, with athleticism, at least historically. Nowadays, it doesn't exist as much. But back in the day, for you to be a super athlete in 4, 5 sports, if you add discus in there, today at the age of 13, these children have to start picking their sport. Which is terrible in my mind. And I know it just by having an athletic son myself. It's like, all of a sudden the coaches, the system, the travel league, to where you just got to be a beautiful athlete and play multiple sports because you were born with it. Now, all of a sudden, if you go back today's age, you would have been picked to go to baseball. I don't even know if you go to college. You probably, with your athleticism, just goes right into the pros. And I think that there's a big difference there. And I don't think in music, I don't believe that's happened yet. But if you think about you personally, what was the moment in your life that you realized the athletic path wasn't going to be the path? It also wasn't going to be the gospel director of the church. How did all that feel?
Well, okay, money. I'm in Colorado for the summer. I'm in Colorado for the summer.
Yep.
1969, 2 other boys from Texas. We're playing a trio in this supper club that I talked to you about. And the owner of it offered us $100 a week a piece.
And how many nights are you singing?
6, but we had to play 2 15-minute sets.
2:15. Okay.
So we just lit the place up. 1969, everybody had long hair, beards, all that. And here we were from Texas, 3 boys. All of us could sing, had short hair, no facial hair. We were the clean-cut kids that arrived in Colorado in the beginning of hippiedom.
Yep.
So this club owner offered us each $100 a week.
Oh, each? It wasn't 100 for the group. It was $300 for the team.
Each.
Okay.
We had to do 2 15-minute shows. Every week for 10 weeks, he gave us each another $100. At the end of 10 weeks, I was making $1,000 a week.
Yep.
I had to do, by then we were doing 2 20-minute shows.
By the way, this is 1969 for everybody listening. This is
That's 50
real,
grand a year.
yeah, this is real money.
The
That
other 2
sounds
boys,
kind of wild.
yeah. The other 2 boys, one had already graduated. He was making a trip. He had a degree in architecture and had a job in Denver. So he's working his architect job during the day and then working singing at night.
Yep.
He stopped. He just went back to his architect. The 3rd member went back and finished his degree and is an orthodontist. I'm the one that at the end of 10 weeks said, this is what I'm going to do. And I learned over the next 2 or 3 years, I played there primarily, and it was a continuous entertainment. And there was one group, they called themselves the Taylors. It was 4 old guys, and they did everything from vaudeville to show tunes in their set. So I learned how to entertain people, and that's what I've been able to carry with me when I go out and I go work solo. I don't care. I'll work in front of 10,000 people alone. It doesn't bother me because there's enough energy to go do that. But
When
I
you're
go out a lot now, just alone.
when you think about when you had the threesome and you had your 3 guys, you're up there, you're making music, and all of a sudden both of them leave, quote, your band, and you're now by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be a little bit jarring at first, and then clearly you rose up and said, hey, I've got to do this alone.
Yeah, it wasn't scary at all. It was like, I found like a nest, and I was like a crow or I certainly wasn't a sparrow at that time, and I was happy in it and stayed there for a couple of years and then said, well, I mean, then other stuff happened. It was like, in the mid 70s, I formed a band and we started playing. And then there was the whole Carter thing, which you'll probably
Jimmy
ask
Carter.
me about. Yeah, which was enlightening.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into that shortly, but we got to jump to the outdoorsman real quick. Gary, let's talk about hunting and fishing. And that's
Right.
a big reason you're now in Colorado, because this is not a casual weekend stuff for you. You hosted TNN's The North American Sportsman. You're an advocate for outdoor sports. As an Eagle Scout, I love this. How deep does this passion go, and where did it start?
Well, I got to lie. I didn't get to eagle. That was
You were
while
close.
playing sports and doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm shocked you got to life with what you were doing.
My mom gave my dad on their first wedding anniversary a match set of Remingtons, a Remington 22 rifle and a Remington 12 gauge. So that tells you where my mom and dad were. And
Oh, yeah.
as a kid, I hate to admit it because I didn't really put it all in perspective, but I had a little Ben Pearson bow, and we lived on Tabor Drive out there. It was that Briley was one street over, and all the rest of that out there was wild country back in the
Remember Briley? Yeah.
late 50s and 60s. No housing, no nothing.
Well, TCU was
I have
there.
a
though.
little
Texas Christian was there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I had my little Ben Pearson bow and arrow, and I would go out and I would shoot bunnies. I'd shoot rats, field mice. And my dad, when he was off, he'd take his 22 and we'd go out there. And, I'm shooting them with a field tip, and I got no mercy. I've no realization about it, which I've imposed on my own kids. If you shoot it, we're going to eat it. If
Yep.
you catch it, we're going to eat it.
Beautiful.
But, and I had a whole little box full of cottontails, like a shoebox that I'd put in, and I had it under my bed. My mom found it.
A lot of good luck charms.
What are these? cotton balls? She said, no. Okay. She said, where did you get these? I said, well, Mom, those are from bunnies that I shot. And she said, if you shoot another bunny, we eat it. And I didn't shoot any more bunnies out there. But so I started, it was just the way it was the way I rolled. And then when I went out to school in West Texas, I was on the football scholarship and playing all these sports, but we'd go out on weekends when I wasn't practicing. We'd go hunt during hunting season. I hunted deer, and then we quail hunted, and our coach lived in the athletic dorm with his family. He had his own apartment, and like during quail season, we'd go out and shoot some quail and bring them in. His wife would cook them for the three of us that hunted, and we'd have quail dinner in their apartment in our dorm. So I've hunted since
you're a baby.
I was probably, call it hunting, since I was probably 8. I was out, and we used to come to Colorado from the time I was 6 till I graduated. Every summer we went to Lake City. Now, I wasn't hunting, but that's where I learned trout fishing, and I started fly fishing. So the North American Sportsman was at a time when country radio was questioning whether I was country enough to be played. And I went, well, if they're not going to play me or they're going to back off playing me, I'll do my next love, which is an outdoor programming, and got a few sponsors. And man, some of them, Wilford Brimley's, he's passed now, but it's been one of my best friends since I met him. I took him to Alaska. I took him to Argentina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I took a bunch of people and had a great time.
I mean, if you think about this incredible journey, and fortunate, I mean, I think it's fortunate to be able to be raised in that environment, very comfortable, clearly safety with guns as well. And you did it all, and you've been doing it since you were 8. For people who have never hunted or fished, make the case, what does it give you that nothing else in your life or your opinion of others can replicate?
It gives you freedom. I don't have to go to a store and buy anything. And most of the people that don't want to hunt and fish, I would totally respect them if they're totally vegan. But if they go to the store and buy steak or chicken or fish, then they're just not willing to take care of themselves. They want someone else to take care of them. And my freezer it has wild turkey, it has elk, it has venison. It's not like I avoid buying hamburger meat or chicken at the store or whatever, but it's like, if push comes to shove, and in this world right now, there's a lot of shoving going on.
Yep.
And you might have to be able to supply your own family with your food, and I can do that.
You just mentioned, that is so real. I mean, obviously, I'm here in the big city of Nashville, and other people, I know this is a pretty... this environment, Nashville's changing, it's evolving, but the state of Tennessee isn't too far from Texas. I mean, let's face it, if it weren't for Tennessee, there wouldn't be a Texas. I think about some of that as a lot of people here are very prepared, but I lived in New York City, I lived in Los Angeles, and you're right. I mean, most of the folks there, they do not know how to hunt.
When I moved to Nashville, I was lucky. I brought with me the son of one of the guys I hunted with, who I met on a hunt, and that's a whole nother show. But I brought him out, and now, and one of the first people that I met through hunting was a guy named Johnny Allred. He's from Culleoka, Tennessee. He still lives there. He works for the foundation, the Wildlife Foundation.
Okay. Yep.
And the guy I brought with me was a graphic artist. He was only 17. He was the son of one of my friends that I hunted with, and he told me he was an artist. I said, well, come with me to Tennessee. You can do my graphics. He did all my T-shirts. He drew the plain brown wrapper cover. He did all of that, but he was an avid hunter. So I've got Johnny and Rich and me, and we all hunted. And we had some friends that had land down on the border, Tennessee. And now those two guys, Johnny is over the fundraising, and Rich does all the graphics. And if you ever went to the Department of Wildlife Resource and saw all the graphics, you would think that it's done by some major corporation in New York, and they've done really well. But once again, they all my real lifetime friends are hunters or fishermen.
Oh, it's culture. I mean that's going to be the same. I have found that to be very familiar. I mean, a lot of folks, it's like if you like golf, you'll end up being with a whole lot of golfers, and I think it plays that. All right, folks, that's the end of the first half. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, the Colorado bar that changed everything, 5 #1 hits, Les Mis, Faith Hill working in your office, and the song that Bette Midler made famous 6 years after Gary recorded it first. We'll be right back.
Started as a kid with a team to believe in. Every win and loss left my heart still beating.
Welcome back. We are here with Gary Morris, the legend. Gary, you were headed to college on a scholarship. You just talked about that earlier in the show. You walked into a bar in Colorado with those 2 friends, got on the stage, and the tips, the money, that's right, $1,000 a week. We're talking about $50,000 a year. The first instant that you knew right then that you were going to become a singer for the rest of your life.
Well, I knew I was going to do that for a while anyway, and it just worked out. I mean, I had no concept of what a singer and making records and playing on giant stages. I had no concept of what that was. I'd never been to a concert. I'd never really seen a major act. You know, it was like watching Lawrence Welk at home and the Lennon sisters, and loved them. And then it was the Beatles when they came out that made me go buy my first guitar. I got to learn how to play this so I can sing "She Loves You," yeah, yeah, yeah. But I still didn't. I never thought of myself as a recording artist.
But did you ever feel that you had, I mean, your voice is, I'm sorry, it's a 0.0001%. I mean, anyone that's listened to the symphony or, orchestra level of Les Mis, when you hear you as Jean Valjean, I don't know, there's a handful of people on earth that can even pull that off. Did other people not notice this in the Baptist church? Because, I mean, you were singing in the choir, you were doing things like that. It just feels like somebody would be like, this is different.
Well, I pretty much did the solos. If there was a male solo, I did it, but it just never, it never really translated singing in church and then going on stage. First of all, back in the late 60s, there weren't these big giant concerts. You'd see. I mean, what really was, from my perspective, it was the Beatles that broke it wide open. It's like, wow. And they have melodies. Wow. And I can sing all their songs. And it wasn't Elvis. And, my mom would say that Elvis is vulgar. You see how he's shaking his leg.
Oh, yeah. They hated him.
And
Baptists hated it.
Okay, the real world. And now these 4 hippie-looking guys, they weren't hippie-looking to begin with. They looked like they came off a track team, and and then they became who they were, and they were the ones. It wasn't the Rolling Stones. To this day, I couldn't tell you a Rolling Stone song. If I heard something that was familiar,
yeah, you'll recognize it.
Realize it was the Rolling Stones. But and even off out in college, I didn't. Music wasn't really important. It was athletics.
Yeah. Well,
my coach said if you pick one sport, you could make All-American. And I went, and I'd be bored the rest of the year, coach. It's like, I'm used to like all this activity.
See, the 70s were starting that trend already. The 70s coaches were already telling you to focus.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, before Nashville, there was Jimmy Carter. You signed on to sing at a fundraiser for his presidential campaign in 1976, which led to performing at the White House. How does a kid from Fort Worth end up singing for the President of the United States?
So let me encapsulate like a year's worth of time. I'd moved down to Texas, and there was an article in the paper that the Star Telegram that said, by Lloyd Benson, he was trying to keep Carter off the ballot because he didn't get enough names on petitions. And I called up the head of the Democratic Party, who I had no connection to, and said, what's this going on? And why can't we at least see who this guy is, Jimmy Carter? She said, you can petition. So I went out and petitioned with my little trio I had then and said, case closed. Then I get a call from a guy named Frank Moore, and his congressional liaison and his press secretary. They say, we heard you did some work for the governor. Can we come hear you sing? And next thing I know, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina on stage with my little trio to a full field house. Wow. Opening for Carter, and I haven't met him yet.
Wow.
And, and I wrote this piece in American Trilogy, which is Dixie, All My Trials. And then I wrote this little piece that said, hey, we've just gone through the worst time ever, Watergate. Now the next president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, he comes on. The place erupts, and we walk off, and they grabbed me and said, can you do the next 14 days? And the next thing I knew, I was playing at Madison Square Garden.
That's so awesome.
You can't make it up. I ended up doing 100 dates with them. Played election night at the Omni, and the TV telecasters came over. I think Charlie Daniels and Styx were both supposed to be on there, and they came over and said, hey, we can't do our cutaways, who's leading. We got to put Gary and his group back on. So I played that night, and then was invited, played an inaugural. And here's the real...
Inaugural. No biggie.
Here's the real deal. This will put the icing on the cake. Yeah. I get a letter from President Carter, said, we're having CMA night at the White House, and we want you're an invited guest. So I go, and there's Tom T. and Loretta and Conway and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And they all do their show. We go into the East Room to eat, and then the president stands up and says, okay, let's go back in, and we're going to do a guitar pull. An old-time guitar pull. We go in, he goes up to a microphone and says, now, I want y'all to hear my favorite singer. And I'm going, oh, no, you're not really going to do this. And he says, Gary Morris, and he brings me up, and I pick up one of the guitars. I sing a Gatlin song, Penny Annie, and sing one of mine. So I'm just going to skip a bunch of time, and I'm going to go. I come back to Nashville because I decide I want to get a record deal if I can. And I call Harold Bradley, who's a guitar player.
Yep.
And he'd played on a demo. And I said, who would understand how I sing? And he said, only one person, Norrell Wilson. And he's at Warner Brothers.
Or Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. So I go down there. I walk in and say, I want to see Norrell Wilson. The secretary there says, or receptionist says, do you have an appointment? I said, no. And now I had long hair and a black beard, and I was wearing overalls and work boots. And she said, well, he's busy. I said, I'll wait. And I'll go over and sit down. And at least 3 hours later, before he came out, and he says, you want to see me? I said, are you Norrell Wilson? He said, I am. And I stood up, and he went, did you sing at the White House?
Oh, wow. Wow.
I said, I did. And he put his arm around me, took me in the room, called L.A., and before that phone call was over, he's saying to the head of Warner Brothers Country in L.A., does he have a lawyer? I'm shaking my head. No, he goes, yeah, he does. Now, I don't want anybody to hear him. Okay.
Yeah.
Click. You're on Warner Brothers, and it's official.
And I mean, and that was the start of 5 #1 country hits.
Yeah. It was the start of a lifetime of playing music. I mean, for real.
Crystal Gale, Another World. I mean, the NBC soap opera theme for nearly a decade. I mean, my background at Procter & Gamble, Gary, I mean, like, that's the whole thing is I was a P&G guy, which meant that Procter & Gamble, as you know, helped create the soap operas. So, I mean, I was selling toilet paper. Now, I wasn't having fun like you. I was the largest toilet paper salesman in Southern California. That was my job. Okay, you're out here hanging out with the president, making, #1 hits. But I got to know, like, you just mentioned it there, and the power and the emotion is what I love the most. But what was that era of your career like from the inside?
I didn't have any idea. I didn't know anything about the music business. Don't get me wrong. I had a band. I knew how to go in and negotiate and try to get as much money as I could, and I had a 7-piece band before I went, but I didn't realize, I had no clue that the music business is all about money. It's not about talent. It's about money and who has money to put behind where, until after I basically had a pretty good run, and I had a publishing company in town, and I picked up a guy to manage him.
Oh.
And I was sitting in MCA making calls for him to radio stations, say, "Hey, this is Gary Morrison. I've got this kid I'm working with. Can you play his record?" And the guy comes in and says, "Hey, there's a station, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, that will add his record." I went, "Well, great." He says, "But the guy needs a set of tires for his Explorer." And I went, "What?" "Yeah, he needs a tire, but it's a reporting station." And the guy goes back into his office, comes back, and I said, "Okay." He says, "Too late. RCA's sending him to Hawaii for a George Strait concert." It wasn't until that very moment that I realized it's about, it's about power and money, and it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying there's a lot of talent that goes wasted, but it's unfortunate that the public that's how music presented to them. Not just country. I'm talking about it's much bigger than pop. I mean, you've got to know it, but I was so green and I was so involved in athletics that, I really hadn't taken a step back and looked. My idea of really a great music and talent was the Lennon sisters. And,
No, what about Faith Hill, though? You got to work with her. I mean, was she in your publishing
Faith
office?
was my secretary.
Yeah, but did you notice something? I mean, because what do you think was that transition that took Faith Hill from being your secretary to becoming a household name?
Well, I hired her. When I hired her as my secretary, I said, "Now, you're not here because you want to be a singer, right?" She said, "No, no, no. My husband does this," and so I came into my office one day and she's crying, and I said, "What's going on, Faye?" And she said, "Well, I really want to sing." And I said, "Well, then you're fired, and you need to go somewhere." And
Makes sense.
Reba picked her up. She went over there, and then Martha Sharp, who was the one that brought me to Warner Brothers, kind of took her along, and bam! I mean, look, she's a singer. Her name is Faith Hill. She's from Hope, Mississippi. She's gorgeous, and I mean, the rest is. I mean, she was really green. She had really never played much music when she got her deal. I mean, she wasn't somebody that had been out playing in bars and stuff. She was 18 years old. She was my secretary at my office down on Music Row.
But she was married. Was she married to...
Not when she got there. No, she married Daniel Hill. Her, Faith Hill from Hope, Mississippi.
Yep.
It's like, yo. And she's beautiful.
Yep.
She's talented. And she was paired with the right people.
Yep.
And
it took off.
And great. Big star. But she worked in my little building right down there on Music Row.
It's just, it's incredible. It's incredible. Well, I mean, you also mentioned earlier, Wind Beneath Your Wings. I mean, Wind Beneath My Wings, which is, been sung by several folks, you being the one, I think, number one. You did it first. You made the song known. And then all of a sudden, Bette Midler does it for the movie Beaches.
Right.
How did you feel? Like, were you excited about this song? I mean, what
about Beaches or about
both? I'll give you both, because Beaches makes me cry every time I watch it. But the song itself, Wind Beneath Your Wings, Wind Beneath My Wings. How did you like that song being performed by Bette Midler?
Well, if I'd written it, I would have really loved it. But I'd have people come out in my concert, or if I were doing like a private show, corporate date, maybe 500 people for a big company in a big ballroom, and I would introduce the singing wind. I said, a lot of you guys are thinking this song was introduced, but in the movie.
Yeah, several
Beaches,
years before, it's you.
and people say, "Can you do that Bette Midler song?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to correct you on that." But anyway,
I know you're going to correct them. You're like, no, it's my song.
anyway, I was delighted just that I had the success that it had, and they fought the battle to get it played. The song is just pure genius. The lyric of it is just, and it's a limerick.
Great word.
And it's just did you ever know that you're my hero and everything? It was played at funerals, at graduations, at weddings. It just fit. I've got more stuff. One real quick one. I've got this. I'm getting on an elevator in Chicago, going up in the airport, and this guy's coming down and goes, "Hey, Gary, will you wait at the top? I really need to speak to you." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I stop. He comes up and says, "I'm going to have your song played at my funeral." Now, this guy's maybe in his 30s. And I went, "Oh, I'm sorry, but you look pretty good."
Yeah.
He goes, "No, I've got a brain tumor. I've only got like 5 weeks to live. My wife and my 2 girls are down at gate 32. Would you come meet them?" And I went, "Sure."
Oh.
I went down to meet him, and then I go back and I go, I've got more stories about that song, letters I've gotten about, and just to be tied to it, I wished I'd have written it. They wrote for Warner Brothers. If I'd been in the next room, I'd have slapped my name on it, but I wasn't. And the song, it was a rite of passage from being just a guy singing to somebody that made a difference in a lot of people's lives. Not me personally, but the song. And it played at funerals, at weddings, at graduations, in church.
Oh, yeah.
So,
priceless. It was one of my dad's favorites. I mean, that was just a classic listening to him. And don't worry, he played yours as well. I heard them both when I was a kid. So I got to hear it all. My dad loved it.
I bet you did.
Before we jump into the world of Les Mis, though, because you just brought up, something that a lot of people listening right now are getting to hear from you, a legend who's been in the world. You just mentioned it, the music industry right here in the hub of Nashville. It's absolutely geared, and money makes it flow. What is some any guidance that you could give for any listeners out there that have passion in this industry? They want to have that career that jumps into music. I mean, I know I've talked to several people like Brett Mayer when he told me the secret is when you meet someone like a Faith Hill, how they become that is they have to. They don't have an option. They have to. And that was one of the big pieces he talked about is how they move to become successful. Any guidance you have because you've seen it all?
I didn't have a mentor.
Wow. Okay.
All I knew was that I wasn't going to go to New York to do music because they're too slick. And I wasn't going to go to LA to try to do music because they're too hippie. So my only choice was Austin wanted to be a music center, but it's not.
Yeah. No,
or it wasn't then.
I agree.
So I'll go to Nashville. And I'm country enough, maybe. And there were even the really good singers, Marty Robbins, and some of those guys that could have been doing LA or New York that were in Nashville. They kind of frowned on me right initially. I was on a panel with Marty Robbins, and I got this kind of feeling about him. And at the same time, Buck Owens was like, grabbed me and, just, "You're the greatest," with, his long coat. I didn't have a program. I didn't have really a sense of direction. It was just simply that I wanted to sing, and Warner Brothers gave me the chance. And my first single, I didn't like it at all. Well, no, Sweet Red Wine was okay, but then they Headed for a Heartache was a big radio record, but I thought it was dumb. I'm going to sing That Girl Just Blows My Mind. Look, that's dating me right off the bat. But 3 minutes, magic at radio, and the guy that ran that department at Warner Brothers had Half Publishing. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. So it played. It went to number 7. And I thought, I've got it. Maybe this is going to work. And it did. I mean, it's like, they're quick. They were fairly quick to put me in, and they were fairly quick to write me off when I did La Boheme with Linda Ronstadt. And then when I did Valjean, it was like, they never played radio, never played another one of my records.
Well, I mean, and that's it's just amazing. And speaking about that is that transition to becoming Jean Valjean. And I mean, I think about that with your Grammy Award-winning performances. What made you decide to join that Broadway world of going from country music star, of building these, and then making that amazing? I mean, that's a cultural transition to live Broadway shows, and arguably, as I said earlier on the show, and for you all listening, you can bash me all you want. I think Les Mis is one of the greatest musicals ever done, and you played the character Jean Valjean, which is one of the most difficult singing tenors to ever be done. I mean, golly, Moses, it's pretty amazing stuff.
So, when I did La Boheme with Linda, that was giving ammunition to CBS, RCA. Well, he's not one of us. And started to slow down at radio. Radio wasn't going to play me because I'm not one of them. And there was a couple of big TV things where I wanted to go on. I actually had Wind out as a single, and I wanted to sing it. And they wanted something from Van Cliburn for me to do the aria from La Boheme.
Yeah.
Texas 150. I got Michael Murphy singing Wildfire. I've got to sing the aria from La Boheme. I had Wind Beneath out. So to go do, a lot of people don't know this. I love to preface something. I went and auditioned for Valjean and came back, and then they called me, wanted me to come back again and sing again. And I said, why? I've already done it. And they said, well, they're bringing the French writers in. They want to hear you. Well, I go back, and so they come over, they go, so you want to do theater? And I went, yeah. We'd like to offer you the touring company. And I said, hey, pal, if I'm going to Chicago, I'm taking my band. Thank you very much. And he said, well, we would offer you this, but we've already promised the role to Colm Wilkinson's understudy on Broadway. I went, congratulations. I left. I was back in Denver. I had a golf tournament, Gary Morris Celebrity Classic, and we raised money for orphanages in the area. And we were just about to present the trophies to the nuns after the tournament. And my agent came to the door, said, Gary, I got to talk to you. I went, I've got these, hang on. He said, no. He says, they want you in New York to do Valjean. I said, I thought they were going to give it to Colm's understudy. Yes, well, he had a drug overdose a night, and
oh my gosh,
he's no longer with us, and they'd like for you to be there. You have 3 weeks to learn it, and you will be on Broadway. The next day I got on a plane, and I went to New York, and they gave me a script and showed me where the stage was and gave me what they call a swing, which one guy in the chorus, and a chair and a piano player. And almost 3 weeks later, not to the day, but almost, we had a invited dress. I'd never met any of the cast. I'd never put on the clothes, done the makeup. 2:00 in the afternoon on Thursday, we did the show. For the first time, I'm walking on singing and doing all this stuff. Wow. Saturday of that week, Colm Wilkinson party to leave. Monday, following week, I opened. I had my dresser in the wings with a script for the first 2 weeks I was there. So when I would come off, I'd say, where are we? Bam, and go back. And I never missed a note. I never dropped a note. It's like, we excuse me for calling it, what do we call it? We call it the shit list.
Yeah, I mean,
is on a board downstairs. If you missed anything, if you stutter at the wrong place, your name went up with what it was. And it was always in fun. But I managed to make it through it. And I remember on the first night, I guess you've seen the show, or I don't know, but there's this place where I go,
20 times.
what have I done, sweet Jesus? What have I done? Become a thief? And then I become a dog on the ring. And I'm walking on the revolve. And in my mind, while I'm singing that, I'm going, oh my God, I've got to do this for at least 6 months. Oh, and it's like, but it worked out.
I mean, for people that are listening to this right now, I mean, the song you just did, the level of detail. I mean, just going through that one day more, and then you've got to do that, your harmony, and with everyone else, this isn't something, I don't know how you can get that done in 3 weeks, because what you just did is a really hard song.
I don't either.
Makes no sense.
The thing about Les Mis when you're doing it, I had an apartment. I was sharing an apartment right across from Madison Square Garden in a high rise. Oh God! In my very first week that I was doing it, I came home on Saturday night and I laid down. Well, whoever had the apartment below me must have just seen Les Mis, because bum, 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 their stereo blowing.
Of your voice, by the way.
The introduction to Les Mis up. I got up and I went downstairs and I banged on their door to get them to turn it down, and they could never hear it. I finally just gave up, went back up. But yeah, it was challenging, and it was all those things. And it was deliberate on my part, and it was really satisfying knowing that I got it done.
And and here's one thing I could feel is getting to know you just into this podcast today. I think a part of it, because what you did based on that background for people that love Les Mis, which most people that they've listened to it love it. And fortunately, I was raised in an environment where I was surrounded by that and a fan of the opera, and I was able to be in that Andrew Lloyd Webber world. But the essence of sports and your fandom and everything of your background, did that potentially help you? Because you had no choice. You had to be there for the team.
It helped me physically. I mean, unlike Colm, who drags the guy around in the one scene, I pick him up, put him over my shoulder, and carry him. And I think it made the character more real to the audience, that this guy is supposed to be, Valjean is supposed to be this beast of a guy, and he picks this guy up, puts him over his shoulder, and walks around and then drops him in. So from a physicality standpoint, I went in strong enough to do that. Whether I could last vocally, I had no clue. I'd never done anything like that, but I didn't have any problems.
Well, you didn't even expect to be a singer either, and then all of a sudden you became one. So, all right, guys, it's time for Desert Fan Island, the Gary Morris edition. Gary, you're trapped on an island. Let's pretend it's the Les Mis Theater. It's just you by yourself on that Broadway environment. You get one movie on a Jumbotron, one musical artist to listen to, one favorite food, one drink, and one person to be with. What's the one movie you're going to have on loop? A lot of wonderful, glorious years are going through your mind right now, and a lot of movies, but you can only pick one.
You'll laugh. The 10 Commandments.
That's a long movie.
But I know, I'm looking for the length.
Yeah. Smart. I was getting ready to say, you're going after, I think that's a 4-hour film, so... All right. Well answered. Well strategically answered. All right. One musical artist.
Man, that's really...
I know it's hard. I know it's not even fair. That's especially to you. That's not a fair question. But I have to ask it.
Whitney.
My wife would agree. All right. One food.
Fried chicken.
One drink.
Oh, I got to look at current. Diet Coke.
That's good. I've heard that one before. It's a good answer. All right. One person.
My wife.
Great answer. All right. One hunting or fishing destination anywhere in the world. Where are you setting camp?
Alaska.
I just got back from a cruise. I have to agree. It's pretty awesome. All right. Quick break. Find Gary Morris on all your streaming platforms. 9 studio albums worth of music waiting for you. We'll be right back with the buzzer beater.
Started as a kid with a team to believe in. Every win and loss left my heart still beating.
All right, we're back with the one, the only Gary Morris. And yes, you got to hear a little bit of that singing on the show today, which was pretty darn special because it just sounds so good coming from him. All right, as someone who is a serious athlete and a serious outdoorsman, what do you think sports at any level teaches people about life that you can't learn any other way?
Competition, one, that everything in life outside of perhaps your personal religious beliefs, everything else in life is competitive. Whether it's competitive. Any work that you're going to try to do, whether you believe it, whether you believe you're competing, it's competitive. And I didn't even think about that as a competitive athlete, but I realized it as an adult, And
No
the
doubt.
music business is competitive. It's not going to be you, it's somebody else who's representing somebody else, as you're well aware.
Yes, no doubt, no doubt. Well, that's a darn good lesson. All right, it's time for the buzzer beater rapid fire round.
Oh,
Okay, Gary, these are the quick answers. Get a big smile on your face. I'm going to ask you the question. Answer first that comes to mind. Number one, if you can only do one of these for the rest of your life, hunting or fishing, which one?
hunting.
Boy, that was fast. Best hunting or fishing state in the country outside of Colorado?
Montana.
Better than Alaska.
I'm actually thinking continental United States. Let me back up. I'll choose Alaska for both.
Boom. Favorite place you've ever performed in your entire career? You've been to a lot of places. I'm crushing you with these questions. Sorry, Gary.
First place.
My gut instinct was, as you were thinking, I was like, he's gonna say the Colorado
Supper Club.
because after 30 years, the fact that she remembered your jumbo shrimp, that says it all. All right, biggest fish you've ever caught?
Tarpon in Florida, 70 pounds on a fly rod.
That's a big one. That's a really big one. Good job. All right, Les Mis, Jean Valjean, or your country #1 hits. Which are you the most proud of?
At this point in time, Les Mis, Jean Valjean.
One day more, one day more. I mean, that just gets me wanting to sing. It's just want to start singing. What is the wildest thing that's ever happened at one of your shows? And it can include courtesy fans.
Biggest bra contest, I think, that was happening on stage. It was kind of interesting because I was kind of measuring and throwing back one at a time. That was probably the most interesting thing.
I've never heard that before, but it sounds fantastic. As the epitome of being a super athlete, super talented, were you able to hold tears or did you let them pour at the end of Beaches?
At the end of Les Mis, at the very end of Les Mis, it was tears flowing.
No, Beaches.
last
At the end
show.
of Beaches. Oh, Beaches. Beaches, the movie Beaches.
Oh, Beaches. Nothing.
All right, back to Les Mis. What is your favorite song that you get to sing on Les Mis? What is your personal favorite of all the ones you sang and you entertained billions, I believe?
My favorite part, which was not just the singing, was the prologue. Even though Bring 'Em Home was fabulous to sing, but that, what have I done, sweet Jesus? What have I done? Become a thief, and then I become a dog on the run. That whole section right there was like, take an eye for an eye. It was like, boy, it had all of this in it.
God, it's so good. Just hearing you right there makes me have goosebumps. I love it. It's so good.
It was good.
When people think about Gary Morris, the athlete, the outdoorsman, the country star, the Broadway legend, what do you hope they say?
He was real. He was complete. I hope they say he wasn't somebody chasing something. He was somebody just following something, his own path.
Incredible. Gary, you were supposed to go to college on an athletic scholarship. Instead, you walked into a bar in Colorado, got a bandstand, and changed everything. But you never stopped being an athlete. You never stopped being an outdoorsman. You never stopped competing, whether it was on the field, on the water, on the stage, or on Broadway. You sang for a president. You hit #1 5 times. You played Jean Valjean from Les Mis. You created Wind Beneath My Wings for folks to listen to, and you gave it to the world. And through all of it, you never stopped being the kid from Fort Worth who wanted to be outside, cast a line, and feel alive. That is a life well lived. This is the Superfan Diaries. I'm J.R. Green. Find Gary Morris at GaryMorris.com and on all streaming platforms. Follow, review, and nominate your favorite Superfan at superfandiaries.com. And remember, if you make one person smile today, you've had a great day. Make them laugh even better. Go get them!